Hello, everyone. I am here with Heather Hink today. Heather is a quantum healing hypnosis practitioner. Hi, Heather. How are you doing
Hello.
today?
Oh my gosh, so good. So excited to be here. Thank you.
Perfect. It's my honor to be speaking with you today. I know that you do a couple of things on your side, so I would love you to provide us a little bit of your introduction from your own words.
Oh, goodness. Well, thank you so much for having me here. Very excited. Yeah, so I'm a quantum healing hypnosis practitioner. I do quantum healing hypnosis sessions over the course of the last 6.5 years. I've done channeled messages. I have an online community called the Quantum Soul Portal, where we do a lot of deep energy healing. We do guided journeys, live transmissions, just all sorts of fun things that just help keep your energy clear, helping you to release what is ready to release from your field and to align more with your divine path ahead, connect more with your guides and angels, and activate your gifts and abilities, all the fun things. Um, so I feel like I do a little bit of everything, to be honest. I'm always kind of mixing it up and just having fun with these energy healing sessions. But yeah, that's a little
Perfect.
bit.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I've been watching your channel for quite a while now, and all the information and the knowledge that you share on your channel is absolutely amazing. So
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for all your work. But how did this story start for you 6.5 years ago? How did you
Oh,
get
goodness.
into the quantum healing?
Yeah, I went through my own awakening in about 2017, 2018, and I shifted out of the work that I had done for 20 years as a web designer and graphic designer, and I just felt myself being called in a different direction. And I started understanding this shift in consciousness that we're moving through. And I became obsessed, like many people do. I was seeking information and I stumbled across some different practitioners who were sharing hypnosis sessions online. And I became obsessed because all of the things that I was learning about the awakening and the shift in consciousness, I was fascinated by all of these people who were in a trance state or a deeply relaxed state and were just channeling through this information. And I binge watched so many sessions. I was watching them daily, as many as I could watch. I loved them. And then one day I just got this message from my team, like, you can do this. I had already taken part of a course because I was so fascinated. I wanted to see, how do they do that? How do they get the client into that relaxed state where they connect with their higher self or their guides or their angels? And so I had taken about half of a course. But I got a really loud message one day from my team, and they were like, you can do this. And I thought, as many sessions as I've watched, I think I can. And so I jumped back, I finished the course, and I was really off and running. And it's been an amazing journey from the start.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Um, how, throughout the 6.5 years that you have been doing this, there must have been a huge transformation in your journey and how you look at the world and the people that you are speaking to and their stories. What would be some of the fascinating stories that you have come across during your journey?
Oh my goodness. There are so many. I feel like I've been really blessed to connect with so many people around the world. And I have seen a little bit of everything to the point where there is nothing that could shock me at this point. Um, so many stories. I think I'm just the most fascinated with sort of outside of the human life. It's realizing that we're so much more than just a human on this planet. This is just one aspect of our soul. Our soul is so massive, and the soul has the ability to fractal itself, to sort of break itself off into different smaller parts. And those smaller parts of your soul get to incarnate into many different lifetimes. And I have been able to firsthand witness all of these different lifetimes through my clients, whether it is past human lives or what we would call past lives, which really aren't past if you understand how the quantum realm works. It's all happening right now. But I think the most things that I've loved is when we get to go galactic and we get to take a peek at what it is like to be a different type of being or in a different body or in a different form. And I know that's hard to even imagine that that's possible. But when you sit on this side of the screen and you get to see all of these different lifetimes, it just makes you realize how expansive our universe is. It's so much bigger than we know. And it's just been so much fun to experience that because it has really shifted me into, like I said, just believing that I'm just here for this one life and that's it. Just to know that there are so many more adventures after this one. It's really interesting to think of what truly exists. So
I definitely feel very fascinated with all the stories that people share during the hypnosis sessions that they have.
Yeah.
And some of the information is absolutely amazing, whether that's past lives, certain information that's coming through, stuff about our universe, how things work. And it's absolutely amazing the knowledge that we as human beings are able to access through different techniques. And when we have a community around us to really drive that forwards and encourage us that there is something else beyond this physical reality, that there are more things happening that we are not aware of. For those viewers who are new to this technique, it would be great to mention just a few things of how the process works. If someone does attend a quantum healing session, how would the process look like? I know that there's a huge amount of relaxation that needs to happen and some meditation sessions, I believe. Yeah. But it would be great if you could take us through it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I will say different practitioners are going to do it different ways. Now, I am not personally trained in QHHT, which is Dolorescannon's method, but I did start my journey out with BQH, which is Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis. I trained originally in that. Candace Craw-Goldman is the founder of BQH, and Candace and Dolores were very, very close. So Candace trained directly under Dolores and still communicates with her, even though Dolores has crossed over. They still are very connected, and she channels a lot of guidance. So I took her course first, and then I moved into SCHH, which is Soul Center Healing Hypnosis. And that gets you more into entities and attachments and energy removal, which is probably a whole other topic in itself. But when you come in for a session, I'll just share how my sessions unfold. So all of my sessions are online, which I love. Many practitioners like to do it in person, and those are perfect sessions. I love that you can stay in the comfort of your own home. You can be across the world from me, and it doesn't matter. You can come in your pajamas and come relax, and you don't have to worry about extra travel expenses. But we typically spend the first hour of your session getting to know each other, just talking and going through your paperwork. What is it that you are looking to accomplish in your session? What questions do you have for your guides? And then once I kind of get a good idea of how to navigate your session, we take a little restroom break. Then you come back and get nice and comfortable. And I do an induction, which is typically right about 15 minutes, where you're just relaxing, breathing, we're grounding, we're opening up and inviting your beautiful divine team of light in. And I'm just getting you sort of out of your conscious mind and getting you into a nice relaxed state. Now, in my sessions, I always start out with an energy clearing, which is the soul center healing hypnosis part of it, because to me, if you have energetic blocks, if you have anything that is attached to you in your field, we want to get that off. That to me is the most important part, because that is what those blocks will hold you back. They will create physical issues that you might be dealing with, mental and emotional issues. And we want to make sure that your energy is clean, you're moving forward, you're nice and connected. But we'll start out with a nice energy clearing, and that's very easy for my clients to tap into their body. The body talks to you. It tells you where we want to work, and we just move around till you feel nice and clear. And then typically from there, we'll move into what we call past life regression, but it could take you into a past life. It could take you into a future life. It could take you into a galactic life. It could take you anywhere. And we just explore that and understand why you're being shown, because your higher self will show you particular lifetimes that are important. And then from there, we just move into Q&A. And so you'll have a list of questions. And as long as you're nice and connected, and most clients are, I'll ask the questions to your higher self. The information will come through, and you will end up with a whole session full of energy clearing, guidance, and a deeper understanding of who you are at a soul level.
It's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
What is galactic life?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we are not just human beings. Many come from the stars, not all. Some human souls start out on Earth and they have only incarnated on Earth. So we would call them an Earth soul or a human soul. But there are many of us who come from different star systems. So the Pleiades, there's Arcturians, there's Lyrans, there's beings from Orion, there's Andromedans, there's beings from Sirius. I work with a lot of angelic souls. So as a soul, you are, let's just say you're like a big ball of light. That's truly who you are. And that big ball of light, we'll just call you that, can choose to be a variety of different incarnational beings. And Earth is just one of many. We've kind of been over here in a space in a lower vibration, a lower frequency for a long time. So it's been difficult for us to have an awareness of these higher beings. We're starting to see that come forward now with disclosure. I don't know if you guys are having disclosure come out there, but we are in the States a little bit here and there. And of course, it's just a little tiny bit of the truth, of the wholeness of our universe, but we're starting to finally see it. So many of our souls have not only human origins, but also galactic origins, where we have been incarnated in other star systems as other types of beings. And I'll tell you, those are my most favorite sessions. I'm so obsessed with those sessions because you get a glimpse into what those lives look like, and it just really expands your awareness again of what's truly out there. We have such strong beliefs about who we are, but really it's so much bigger.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And just as you mentioned, very strong beliefs, we have a lot of limiting beliefs.
So many.
Through childhood, as we evolve and grow, and also limiting beliefs that we create ourselves for our own individual person. How do you think we really hold ourselves away from exploring this new, not really an idea because it's a reality that we are not aware of, but how do you think we block ourselves from the awareness that there is other things out there, that we are star seeds, that we are star beings, and that the universe is vast.
Yeah. Well, my guides have said, they kind of laugh about it. I can feel them laughing right now. Like we're a little bit stubborn down here. We're very set in our ways. And as a human, we hold on to our beliefs very tightly. So each person has their own set of beliefs. And sometimes you'll hear someone like me talking about galactic star beings, and you didn't grow up having any of that awareness, and you just want to kind of shut it out and say, no, that's not possible. We're very quick to throw out something that is outside of what our belief system holds. And it's understandable because that almost keeps us safe. And sometimes it's almost like if you've believed that you are just this human being your whole life, and then someone comes along and says, no, you come from the stars, it can sort of disrupt your nervous system a little bit. It can make you feel a little unsafe. It can also make you look back and say, well, if that's true, what else don't I know? But we're moving through this process. It's what many call the Great Awakening. And to me, it's not an awakening. It's more of a remembering, waking up and remembering who we truly are. It's not an easy path because you really have to look at what you believe and then what you're being told and kind of weigh, what do you feel? I always say when you're moving into this reality, for me, I've always been extremely open-minded my entire life. So there's not a lot that comes in that I just immediately throw it out and say, no, that's not true. I always say when you hear these things, and even if to your system it sounds like, well, she's crazy, or that's not accurate, or that's not true, don't throw it out completely. Sit it aside and say, I don't really know how I feel about it at this moment, but that's okay. I don't have to believe what this person is saying, but it's interesting. And maybe I'll hold it for a rainy day and just kind of sit with it. This is one of the reasons why I love to share content on my channel. I love to share the hypnosis sessions. I love to share the channeled messages. I love to share the things that come in through my own divine team of light, because that helps people to expand their awareness when you come across this information, because it's challenging. It's challenging to think that you may have lived as a Pleiadian or an Arcturian. Most people don't even know what those are. But then when you start learning about their role and the gifts and abilities that they have, and that we have those, well, then life kind of gets fun. So we do hold on to things very intensely and very tightly, but it's okay to let go of that. It's okay to say, you know what, I thought I had it all figured out, but I'm realizing that I don't have much figured out. That's what I've learned. Sometimes I think I know a lot, and then I'm like, I still have so much to learn. So, but it's just fun. Just let yourself be expansive, I think.
That's amazing. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I can definitely relate to the limiting beliefs. And although we get to a stage when we feel like I've released it all, next thing you find that there's more
Layers.
to unpeel. Yes.
We do this work inside the Quantum Soul Portal, and I can tell you, you can work for years and still be working on layers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I guess the sort of layers show themselves up gradually is because maybe we are not ready to see those beliefs or those things that hold us back just yet, until we've uncovered and gone through some healings before then. Yeah. I guess it's one of those stage process, and there's just more to come. It never ends.
Yeah, and
there's always room to grow.
It's not even from this lifetime too. That's what's so fascinating about doing this work is we're doing a lot of healing from this life, and You know, if you are on your healing journey, you're not just doing it for yourself. You're more than likely doing it for your family lineage. There are many that are here right now that are transmuting energies for the greater collective, because we're doing a lot of purging and releasing right now, letting go of those heavier energies so that we can rise up and remember who we are. And then, of course, you have lifetimes and timelines and parallel versions of reality and your ancestral lines. And there's a lot of healing that is happening right now, and it's very intense. It can be very intense for a lot of people.
Why do you think that we incarnate on this earth?
Yeah, I think at this time, so many of us came here to assist in the shift. And, you know, this was the time period that we knew we were going to go through a shifting out of the third dimension into the higher dimensions, into the fourth, fifth dimension. And that was going to require a lot of higher dimensional beings. That's why if you resonate with being a starseed, you have already ascended or been a part of higher dimensional time periods, and you are bringing those frequencies, those codes back to Earth right now to assist in holding the grid. So we have the old Earth grid that's breaking down, that kind of kept us in a control structure. And that is, we're seeing that kind of destabilize right now. There's a lot happening around the earth. A lot of people are waking up. There's a lot of chaos. It's all for a greater plan. And there are many of us who are doing the healing work, the clearing, the releasing, the letting go, so that we can shift into a higher frequency and stabilize the new earth grid. We are stabilizers. We're bridges. We're bridging between multiple dimensions. There's a lot happening. And even if you have no idea that you're doing this work, because someone may hear this and go, what does that even mean? I don't even know. It's just simply working on yourself. That is the biggest thing that each person can do. It is doing the inner work. It is letting go of what is holding you back, letting go of people, places, things that are no longer in alignment with you. Going within, meditating, getting out into nature, connecting with your guides, loving yourself more, pouring more into yourself. That shifts your frequency, kind of like you're tuning to a higher radio station. And as you do, you become part of the support team that is holding and anchoring the new earth grid, which is the energetic grid that allows life to transform just in a more beautiful way, less control, less with all the stuff we live in now, and just a more beautiful space for us to live in.
Perfect. And again, I completely agree with the healing of ourselves within, and then that ripples out to the people that we socialize ourselves with, whether that's family, friends, colleagues. They see a different part of us once we heal something within ourselves. When we pour into our cup, they see a different version of us.
Yeah. You're showing the way.
Absolutely.
Showing how to do it.
How do we align with our true purpose? Because there's a lot of course, there's a lot of people that are going through the awakening or the remembering. And we see that in the world, in people's responses online. How do those people find their true purpose, their true self? How do they find the way to what they have actually signed up to do when they incarnated here?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one that so many come into sessions for, because you feel this greater calling within your soul. It's like, you know, you're here for a greater purpose, and you can be here for a great purpose, but it could be just to hold and anchor the light. It may not be that you need to do anything but just be in your joy. get yourself in that just the beautiful, joyful place. But some feel like I have a role to play, I have something to do. It is a process, and the process to me, it always starts with your awakening first. It kind of happens and you kind of go, okay, there's more to this reality, and you start to explore that. And then I feel like sometimes then the healing comes in, because it's like, all right, now you're seeing the bigger picture. Now you have to heal. You have to let go. You have to release, because as humans, we just hold everything so tightly. We hold emotions. We are not good at processing and releasing emotions. That's a lot of the energy work that I do, both in sessions and inside the Quantum Soul Portal. When we don't release emotions, they become like energetic masses in our body, and they create blocks. It creates blocks on your path. It creates blocks to your higher guidance. It creates all sorts of things. You would be blown away if you knew how much holding on to that energy does to us. So when that energy comes up for release, it's so, so important to let it go. And as we do the healing, as we start to really look at our life and what we desire, my guides have been talking quite a bit. Today I did a channeling, and they were like, what are you pouring your energy into right now? Are you pouring it into what is in your life that you don't like? Or are you dreaming big of the world and the reality and the life that you want to live? They were reminding us that we are powerful creator beings. We have the light of source within. And when we tap into that and we pour our energy and our emotion into the reality we want to create, we draw it in, we align with it. So it's the inner work, the letting go, the really going deep and figuring out, what do I need to work on within myself? And as you release more of that, you become more in alignment with the truth of yourself, the joy, the love, the self-care. Everything begins to align, because my team has always said, every single one of us came here with a plan and a path. Sometimes we get off path. Sometimes we get a little stuck in this crazy reality. But what is meant for you will align with you when you're ready. So if you want to get there a little faster, just do that deep, deep inner healing work, and that'll clear what needs to clear so you can align with the path ahead.
And I think part of that, maybe what our viewers would benefit from hearing, is when we start feeling emotions and remembering things that we find painful or disappointing, we tend to be a little bit scared of that and retract.
Yeah.
But for that to really process, you have to let it come up. You have to go through the memories, the pain, and forgive and release it to really be free.
Yeah, it's about feeling. So many of us like to shut off the emotions. It's intense. The guides have said this is probably one of, if not the most intense place where a soul can be, because of the range of emotions. They're so vast. They don't feel quite as much as we do on other planets that I have come across. And so as humans, the emotion, especially when it's heavy, is very intense. And so we just want to push it away. We want to not deal with it. We want to numb out. This is taught very early, with our kids. And I'm guilty of this with my own children. When they start to cry or when they start to get upset, we don't want them to be upset. We tell them to be strong and you're fine and it's okay. What we don't realize is the release, the tears, the release of the emotion is allowing them to process through what they're feeling. And that is powerful. So if you have a child at an early age where you're constantly not allowing them to cry or express their emotions, that's just like wads of energy that never gets released. And so that child grows up into adulthood, and they've got all sorts of issues in relationships because they are unable to process emotions. They're unable to deal with their emotions. I see this many times in the men that I work with because they're really told to be strong and be tough, and you have to be a certain way. Crying and tears and release is the best way to alchemize the emotion that we hold within. And when you allow yourself to feel through the energy, not suppress, and it's okay if you are angry. Anger is even good. Let that anger out. Allow yourself to feel the emotion. It doesn't have to always be joy, but release it when it comes forward. And what that does is it opens up your energy field. We have a toroidal field of energy that's always flowing through us, keeping our energy balanced and aligned. And when you've got all these blockages within your field, it can create, again, physical, mental, emotional issues, not only for you in your life, but in the relationships that we have. So energy work, I'm looking forward to one day when more of us are aware of our energy field and how important it is to keep that clear and work on that release, because it changes your life. You become more balanced and more aligned, and you just feel so much better. And then, like you said, when you are in that alignment, you are radiating that positive energy. Everyone around you feels that, and they follow that, and they look to you for guidance. And that's how we all sort of help each other out.
Perfect. I'm so pleased that you have mentioned children and men not being able to process emotions. I think girls and women were a little bit more open to that. But when it comes to men especially, from a very young age, as soon as they reach around teenager age, they sort of stop crying at all.
Yeah.
And once they are men, it takes something really big for them to release that pain.
Yeah.
And I think there is sort of that society pressure where you do have to be perceived strong, and not be able to sort of show your feelings. But I feel that as more people are open to share the work that you share, the energy, how to release it, hopefully with the rippling out, more men will align with that, and they will be able to heal the things within themselves as well.
Yeah, I think that's going to shift. I do, and I'm seeing, as the energies shift, we're kind of going through this process of bringing the divine feminine and the divine masculine back into balance. And we all hold both feminine and masculine energies within ourselves. They're out of balance in most of us. Even the women are more in their, many, not all, but are more in your masculine energy, because we're the doers and we take care of everything and we get things done. And your feminine energy is more of your receptive and receiving energies. And so it's work on both sides, both female and male. But I do feel like as the energies continue to shift, I don't think we're going to have a choice. I feel like what's happening is we have so much light flooding into the planet, and we have our star families, whether you are aware of them or not, that are sending codes, and they're sending light, and they're helping you to remember who you are if you're going through your awakening. And we're receiving so much for those who are ready and those who agreed to do that work. And I don't think we're going to have I think the energies are just going to be pushed to the surface. That's what, my awakening, I went right into a dark night of the soul. And that was a huge purge and release process that was unlike anything I've ever experienced. But it literally was like energy just coming out, sometimes for days. I think I cried 2, 3, 5 days straight. not understanding what was happening, but it was a massive release. But that was preparing me, I feel, to be able to do the work that I'm doing now, to be able to support my clients. I had to first go through a very quick and fast and intense healing of my own. So I think we'll get there, but I just would say to anyone listening, let that emotion come up and release, because it is helping you in ways that you can't imagine.
And I feel like also the releasing part and finding your true self and your purpose, I feel like in our lives, if we are not moving towards our true purpose, there will be things happening orchestrated in our lives to further push us in the right direction.
Yeah.
And I feel like that we can recognize when we are moving in the right direction, because things start happening around us to give us signs, and things start flowing so much more easier. I feel like if we are not moving towards our true self, life can be very, very difficult, because it's trying to steer us to look a different way. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. And I feel like I've gone through this a couple of times where, well, it's almost too, it'll shift you. So, you're living life and you think this is supposed to be my life, and then all of a sudden your reality starts to break down. And that happened to me twice over. And I'm talking a loss of people, a loss of jobs, a loss of so much of the stability. And I'm looking around thinking, what is happening here? Did I upset somebody in the universe? But that pushed me to look in a different direction, because my path was ready to change. I think if you were meant to go on another path, yes, your reality will all of a sudden shift, and maybe it won't be like mine. Mine was very rapid twice, because obviously my soul enjoys that. I don't. The human doesn't, but my guides have said, yeah, you just like to get it done. And I'm like, okay, I'm done doing that. Thank you very much. But it will happen. And I think as long as you can just follow it, which is not always easy, because we don't see what's ahead, and humans hold so much fear, and that fear gets kind of in the way, and we're like, then there's the mind, and the mind makes everything a whole hot mess, because, we overthink and overanalyze. But what my team always says is, come back down to your heart, get out of this so much and come back down into your heart, because that's where all the answers lies. If you can quiet your mind, if you can really try and connect with your team, even if you can't hear them, that's okay, but they're always there. Quiet your mind and just feel into your heart. If you don't know which direction you're going, then move into the feeling of it. What do you want to feel? How do you want to feel in your life? What would a day in your life feel like to you? What would it look like, even if you don't know all of the details? We don't realize how powerful we are with our energy, and we create everything in our reality, but we're often creating in the wrong direction because we create through fear and worry and trauma and all the things that we haven't cleared. And we stay stuck in the past, and we keep bringing all the past back into the future, and identifying with a version of ourselves from 10 years ago. We still think we're that person, and it's like they say, let go of all of that, because you're moving into a brand new version of self, and that version is so incredible and expansive. But you have to release, you have to do the healing, you have to let go, and you will get there, and everything will align, because you're not going to miss anything that was meant for you to experience, however long it takes you to get there.
I can absolutely relate to that, because I've definitely gone through my own journey where life was trying to push me in other direction, and at the time you don't understand why things are happening in your life. You sort of ask yourself, what is happening here? Things are crazy. but it's trying to take you through a journey and really think about, what do you enjoy? I think joy is something that as we evolve into adults, we come away from our joy a lot. As children, it's what we do on a daily basis. We play, we're very joyful, we're very happy, and then as we evolve, we sort of retract from that joyful self and really thinking, okay, well, what really makes me happy? What would make my soul shine? If I could do anything, what would that be that would fulfill my soul? Rather than looking at this reality and what we can do and really not thinking about the joyful aspect of us, who we are. And I feel like when we do release a lot of these beliefs and traumas, at the other side, we are a different person. And it's okay to change, because that is your true self.
Yeah, absolutely. Joy is a frequency. And so if we realize that we are energetic beings, which we're physical, yes, but our energy, it's something else. You extend across so many levels and layers of existence and dimensional spaces, and your energy field is vast. And we shift based on the frequencies that we hold. Joy is a frequency. Happiness is a frequency. Love is a frequency. So is pain and anger and sadness. And when we stay in those frequencies, we are holding a lower frequency, a lower vibration. It keeps us stuck. It keeps us trapped. It keeps us spinning in cycles that we don't want to be in. And those cycles continue to repeat until we're ready to let them go and let go of all of that. And it's not easy. And I do know that. I know some people are really going through it, and it's challenging. But the guides always remind us, as much as you can be in that joyful energy, dance, sing, do things that light up your heart. That is helping to align you to the higher timelines and the higher experiences. And the more of us that can hold and anchor those higher frequencies, we hold and anchor it for others. We become kind of like lighthouses or beacons. We radiate that energy. It is just a process, though. But yes, I agree. Joy is such a powerful frequency, and the guides are always saying you need more of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What about the people who are asking themselves, what do I actually like? What do I actually enjoy? What would make me happy? And they're not entirely sure how that looks for them, what they really enjoy. What would be your advice to those people?
Yeah, that's challenging, isn't it? I remember going through that period in between when my big awakening and everything sort of fell away, and I loved what I did. I did web design and um all sorts of things, and I thought I'd do that forever, and then all of a sudden it just stopped resonating with me one day. And it took me a period of about three and a half or more years to really anchor into the next layer. I was kind of floating, going, I think I started making baby blankets in between there, because I was like, what am I supposed to do? And the guides were like, no, you're not going to make baby blankets, but you can for now. But I think sometimes it's just a matter of just explore things and feel. And I think most people will cut themselves off and say, maybe you do have an idea of something you would love to do, but I hear so many of my clients say, well, I can't do that because of this reason and this reason and this reason and this reason. So automatically you are kind of stifling yourself and cutting yourself off. So if there is something that you would love to do, or even if you don't know, again, go back to how you want to feel. When I was moving through that time, I had no idea. I was like, what am I going to do with myself? And what I felt like my team was trying to tell me is, how do you want to feel? And I kept going back to, I want to feel free. I want to do something where I feel free and I love what I do and I help people and it's fun and I get to create it myself. I don't want to go back and work at a job. I want to create something on my own. And I just leaned into that every day and I poured energy into those feelings. And then when it was time, everything opened up for me. So I think, again, it's like, don't say I can't do this because I don't have the money or I have kids or I live in the wrong. It's okay. Think about what it would feel like to do that, and you never know what is going to come in your path. The guides will rearrange things when you're ready, but you also have to meet them halfway by allowing for any possibility. And sometimes it might be a little bit different than what you think. You kind of have to be open-minded. But just ask your team, show me what I'm here to do. Help me figure out what would be fun, and just let it unfold.
For me, I love having conversations with people. I love learning. I'm very curious, open-minded. I can watch people have conversations and discussions about different topics. And I feel like my mind is like a sponge. I just want the information and I'm very excited about learning and just evolving as a person, creating good layers rather than traumatizing and limiting beliefs, creating layers that are here to benefit us as we go ahead onto this journey, living on this earth. So that's amazing. Thank you so much, Heather, for sharing that with us. Yeah. What do you think are dreams? How do you perceive dreams in your perspective?
Oh, goodness. That is a great question. I even said this morning, I have the weirdest dreams. They're so strange. They make no, some people have these beautiful, like, I had a dream and I want to share it, and mine just make no sense. I will say I don't necessarily understand dreams per se, but I do know what I've learned through so many sessions is that, we are not as attached to our bodies as we think we are. And when we go to sleep, our consciousness travels. It's like the consciousness part of ourselves exits the body. We go home, wherever your home is. We go and we learn, we train. Some of us go and we assist people to cross over. There are so many jobs out there. The guides have said, it's funny, they're like, when you're asleep, that is where your real life is, the work that you're doing there. When you come back into the body, this is kind of like the dream state. It's interesting because this feels very real, but they said it's just an experience that you're having. But I've loved exploring where people go at night, and sometimes they end up in different realities. Sometimes they end up in places where they're not supposed to be, and they'll be escorted back into the right dimension. It's really interesting where we go at night and what we do. And I have seen all sorts of just interesting things, but dreams I can't quite figure out. I know some people have very prophetic dreams. Mine are just really odd. It's just really odd.
I like the idea of remembering my dreams when I wake up. And I feel like if I don't remember, I'm like, I need to remember, what was that dream? What was that dream?
Right. They go so quickly, don't they?
They do. They do. Yeah. And I've definitely had some vivid dreams also. And it's very fascinating to me because I've also heard people say that our dream state is the real reality.
Yeah.
And when we try to put our heads together of what really dreams are and how can we remember more aspect of our dream? It's definitely a really big question.
Absolutely.
And also what I think is a really big question is lucid dreams. I find that very fascinating.
Yeah.
I've had a few lucid dreams, and sometimes you just wake up so quickly. As soon as you are lucid, you wake up so quickly. I don't know if you can relate to that.
Yeah, I have always throughout my life had this, and I don't do it like I did. It started when I was about 19, but I would kind of in between that state of being awake and asleep, that sort of in between state, which is the theta brainwave state, I could open my eyes and see in my room, and I could see things. And I thought I didn't know what it was for the longest time. I thought I was hallucinating because that's all I could figure out. Now that do what I do, I know that I was being able to see interdimensionally. So there are dimensions that exist upon dimensions, and they're sort of layered. We actually have layers around us. We are just, it's like what our eyes can visually perceive is what we see. This is our reality, but there are layers of reality sort of stacked on top of each other. And there are other things in our realities that we can't see. And in that in-between state, I could see them. So I did that for years, which when you don't know what's happening, it was exhausting. I had all the tests and nothing was wrong with me, but it would happen several times a night. We have layers, like many people can astral project out of their body. The consciousness, again, can come out of the body. You only need just a little tiny bit of consciousness to remain in your body. I know this sounds so weird, but it's really interesting in order to keep it alive. So you don't need the fullness of your consciousness or your soul that's in the body doesn't need to stay, but you can project that out and go into what they call like the astral realms. And that's an interesting kind of thing to get in. I never have done that, but I've come close to coming out of my body. I got scared and pulled myself right back in.
Okay.
But yeah, it's so interesting what is out there, from lucid dreaming to astral projection to just opening your eyes in your space and seeing things that are in your space that aren't really there, but they are. There's a lot that happens in that sort of in between to sleep state. It is fascinating for sure.
Absolutely. I can definitely also recall when I was a teenager, sort of just opening my eyes and seeing things in my room.
Yep.
And of course, as soon as you say that to anybody with our normal program, and it's ghosts.
Well,
and we go into the fear state.
There's, that, and that's a thing too. And it's not really ghosts. Part of the work that I do is the Soul Center Healing Hypnosis. This is again probably a whole nother podcast episode, but entities and attachments and conscious energies that can become attached to our field energetically, which again sounds crazy, but I have helped to remove and release hundreds of earthbound spirits, which is the soul, which is what most people would call a ghost, but it's not really a ghost. It is our consciousness that comes out of the body, but does not cross back over into wherever it is going after its physical incarnation. Many of those souls get stuck here. And there's a variety of reasons, as I've talked to so many, why they get stuck. They got confused. They got scared. They've been programmed throughout their life to believe that they're going to you-know-where. And so they're afraid to go anywhere. They're like, nope, I'm staying here. Or they have a vendetta. Maybe they were murdered and they're wanting to stay around to get back at someone. Or maybe their family is so distraught that they can't leave. But it's easy for those souls who we call ghosts to stay here, and they can even become energetically attached to us, which is so strange. But there's so much more to this reality. We only perceive a teeny tiny amount through our senses, but it's it's so much greater than there's so much.
Perfect. We never stop learning.
No, not at all.
And from this conversation, I love that there are so many channels out there who share different perspectives, different teachings, and create communities where people can have these conversations, where they can share their experiences, and where people can relate, but also open up their perspective to new possibilities.
Absolutely. I have one of those communities actually, the Quantum Soul Portal. I created that 3 or 4 years ago, and it was part to help people continue on their healing journey. So clients would come in for sessions, and one session is going to do amazing things. But as we've talked about, you have a lot going on and it's very deep and layered. And I wanted a place where people could come and continue working on their healing through guided journeys and guided meditations and things that they could just tools and resources they could use to heal. But I also wanted a space where you could feel comfortable talking about these things, because one of the number one things that I hear from clients when I connect with them is, I have no one to talk to about this stuff. It's very odd. And when you start waking up and realizing, oh, wait a minute, I'm from the stars, or I have this big mission, or you start realizing these things, and then you try to tell your family and friends, well, they give you a little bit of the side eye, like you're nuts, and you realize you can't talk to them. They're not ready. They don't understand. So I created this community where people could come in and talk about all the weird stuff, which is my favorite. Like, the weirder, the better. It's fun to learn. Like you said, I learn from my group all the time, and they learn from each other, and we support each other when we're moving through these difficult times. And I think that's so important. The guides have really been pushing community lately, and not only online communities, but live gatherings, which I'm moving into starting at the end of this year and into next year, bringing people together for retreats, because our energies are ramping up and they're just saying we need to gather. We help each other to heal. We share codes. We help activate each other. And that allows your greater mission to unfold. So community is so important.
And congratulations to your retreat that is happening in November of this year.
Yes.
You will have, I'm sure you will have amazing time with the community that you have created. And I guess also to add on to the community aspect, when people gather in person, you also create a lot of friendships with those people, and they're people that can stay with you for a long time, and you can keep supporting each other throughout the different challenges that you might go through in your lives. And I believe you have around 10 people, hopefully, at this event, or possibly more. However, more people would like to attend, and I hope there's more.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you have a few trips planned as well for this retreat, I understand.
Yeah, we're going to go digging crystals right outside of Hot Springs, which is where it's at, Hot Springs, Arkansas, which is, it's just a huge crystal bed. So very, very powerful location, very beautiful. And there's a spot not too far from the retreat home where we're going to go dig crystals out of the earth. And the guides have said that we will all be guided to the exact crystals that are meant for us to have energetically, to take back with us. And when we take crystals from one area, it's like grid work. We're sort of moving the energies back to where everybody lives. Right. And it's amazing. And this year, I already have some beautiful souls. I have one flying in from Australia for this trip. Wow. I know, and I have one from Canada. So we are going to be spreading out around the earth, and I just love that.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
And of course, we will have all your links in the description so people can find your podcasts and your website and how to attend the retreat. And I guess my last question for you would be, Heather, what and who inspires you in your life and in your journey as you move through your experience of sharing your gifts with your community and with the people around you?
That's a great question. I think it is the people that I connect with that inspire me. I think we inspire each other. I learn as much from them as they learn from me. I love, 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 love just watching someone grow and heal and tap into gifts that they didn't think that they had. And all of a sudden they're doing these amazing things. I'm incredibly inspired by the work that people are doing right now and the effort that they're putting in to help humanity shift. I just think it's just a big team effort, and we're all doing it together, and I love to be a part of this incredible community. I'm so incredibly grateful for each and every person that I connect with.
Thank you so much, Heather. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for joining me today.
Absolutely.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and I've really enjoyed our conversation. And I hope that the viewers also really enjoyed this conversation. I'm sure they will do. We have covered some really good questions, and I hope to connect again another time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I have really enjoyed this.
Thank you, Heather.